Welcome to the spoiler Captain America Civil War review. Now, if you actually haven't seen this yet, if you haven't seen the movie, not if you've seen this, I'm sorry, if you actually haven't seen the movie, then definitely stop it right here unless you're one of those people that just don't really give a flying you-know-what. So, and you want to stay and want to listen to what I got to say and you really don't care, fine. I appreciate you staying and continuing to watch me here. If not, I have no problem. If you stop me, want to wait to go see that movie, come back to me later. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. So let's start off with Peggy Carter, who I gotta say, I thought she was such a badass in the original Captain America, the First Avenger. The next time you see her is actually in the sequel, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, but she's really old. She's like 70s, 80s, something like that. So in this one, they don't even show her. Captain Rogers ended up getting a text that said, she's gone, she went in her sleep, so Peggy actually dies. I guess you can kind of say while the beginning of this movie was going and while Captain America was actually out, wherever he was out, being an Avenger and all that, him and Black Widow and Wanda at one scene, too close to the beginning of the film. Then I want to talk about something I brought up in the spoiler-free one about Bucky being unfrozen, and he actually pretty much knocks off this vehicle and he goes for the super serum. So then the thing is that there's more to that meets the eye, which I will bring that up later on, which I also mentioned December 16th, 1991. Well, that's going to be definitely 9 days before Christmas, and there's going to be one pissed off person, and I'll explain that one later on. Just a little teaser I want to bring up right there. So the thing is, I mentioned about Bucky again. He actually gets framed for blowing up a building, but here's what was odd. He blows up a building, but only one person dies, which was Black Panther's father. I'm not actually surprised about this. Every superhero's parents, father, mother, uncle, grandfather, grandmother, everybody seems like they're always gone. They're always out on their own. So Black Panther's father ends up dying in this one. Well, he actually, Black Panther, he wants revenge against Bucky. Now, I have to say this one more time on this, even though that's not really a spoiler. Though, Black Panther and Bucky, wow, freaking good fights that they still had. And I have to be honest, I still have them in my head right now, just thinking about like a couple of their fight scenes that they had. Let's talk about the big airport scene that everybody wants to talk about here. A lot of good fights in that, a lot of enjoyable stuff, but that's not really being a spoiler. That's just an opinion, of course, where a lot of people I think would agree anyways with me about that, how awesome that was. I want to talk about what happens in this one. There's at least one big thing, there's my hint right there, where Ant-Man becomes Giant Man, and he actually reaches out and grabs War Machine, throws him pretty much, he pretty much throws him across the way, but Spider-Man ends up catching War Machine, and Spider-Man and War Machine are trying to beat up Ant-Man while everybody else is trying to go after Cap and Bucky. One thing I gotta say about Cap is that he's always such an honest gent. You don't get too many people like that in the world anymore like that. Just something I wanted to throw out there. How much he fights for the American way, but of course, got to realize where he came from too. Around Hitler time here, around World War II time. So of course it's going to be him being such a nice guy. It's pretty crazy on that. So you get Tony Stark, who actually goes visits Peter Parker and recruits him. Well, pretty much he actually knows once Peter Parker and Tony Stark are actually in Peter's room here, and Tony Stark locks the door, and I thought right away he was going to say, okay, Spider-Man, but he pretty much talks a little bit with him, and then when Tony Stark actually uses his phone and just throws the phone and all the pictures go ever, and it's like, is that you? Are you Spider-Boy or Spider something? It's like, I'm Spider-Man. You're Spider-Man? I don't believe that one bit. So he actually recruits Spider-Man, and actually there's some interesting things I want to bring up about, I want at least one thing to bring up about. He actually recruits him, he actually creates Spider-Man's suit a lot better, helps him out with his webbing, which was really awesome on that too. Then we actually get back to what I mentioned about with the whole thing with Bucky, and the whole thing with that, Bucky, knocking off this vehicle or, knocking it off the road here. Well, it actually turns out a guy falls out, and it's actually Tony's dad. Now, Tony is actually watching this video here, and of course, each moment that keeps going by, he's getting, pissier and pissier and pissier and pissier, it seems like. I don't blame them. I think we all would have done the same thing that Tony Stark would have done through this one. But they actually show where Bucky actually pretty much beats the living hell out of Howard Stark there. Then he actually tosses him back in the driver's side there. Then he actually walks around while Tony's mother is crying and screaming. And Bucky comes around to the passenger side and chokes the life out of Tony's mother. So after he sees that, of course he wants to go ape shit on Bucky. I don't blame him. You know, Bucky was just, he was still controlled, but you know what, Tony doesn't really matter. It's like, you know, he did this, I'm going to go after him. So you do have, you know, you got Iron Man who wants to go after Bucky. You got Captain America there, is definitely in the middle of them, trying his best to really stop these two. It's not really, unfortunately, working though. So that's why when you see in the trailer there, when you see Captain America and Bucky teaming up on Iron Man, and Iron Man's doing the best way he can by shooting his laser beams out and missing them. He eventually does hit Cap at one point, and then him and Buck are actually taking each other on, and they both get some good licks in. But my God, one thing that Bucky did that was so freaking amazing, I gotta say, is he pushes Iron Man on, pushes him, to a wall, has his regular hand holding Tony's mask, and to actually rip off that metal thing off of his chest there. And what he does is he eventually does blow that up there. He actually does pull that off of him, but then Bucky is not completely all out of the woods with that, unfortunately. He loses the robot arm, so he's completely like this, and all he has is like a shoulder and maybe a little bit more here, a little arm, but not too many on that there. So that goes down like that. So I was like, yeah, I mean, the thing is, like I said, I think we all would have felt the same way doing that. Hey, you know what? You went after my parents? Of course I'm going to go after you. Then after everything's all said and done, and you have Rhodey and you actually have Tony back at, like, I guess a house or something, but he's not actually at his mansion, I don't think. You get Stan Lee's cameo at the very end here, where the whole thing is he actually is a FedEx delivery driver, which made me laugh. He knocks at the door, he's like, "Are you Tony Stank?" So all of a sudden, you hear Rhodey say, "Yep, this is Tony Stank, come on in. You got the right place," and all that. And Rhodey's like, "I'm not going to let that down for a while." I thought that was kind of cool on that, too. Now let's get on to the after credits. There were two of them. You had one in the middle, you had one at the end. So the one in the middle is you see Bucky once again with just his shoulder and a little bit of arm left there. And you have him sitting on a bed or a gurney or something. He's in a laboratory. Captain America actually walks up to him and says, "Bucky, are you sure you really want to do this?" And Bucky's like, "Yeah, I really, really want to do this." So the thing is, he's like, "You know what, I don't know what Hydra, I don't know if this is going to continue happening. Hydra actually still controls me. I must do this." So he actually freezes himself. But you think that Cap and Bucky and Ant-Man and Wanda and Falcon, they're all on the run. Now all of a sudden they're criminals instead of being Avengers anymore. Why? I don't know, but this is the way Civil War goes here. Everybody will go their separate ways, it seems like, or your teams will stick together or whatever it's going to do. So the thing is that you're thinking, wait a minute, they're criminals. How do they actually get this equipment? How do they have the money to do this? Well, it turns out that Black Panther decided to help them out, and Black Panther says to Cap, "Your friend, my father, they were just victims." Last cinematic, which is actually Spider-Man in his room, and he's actually looking at something like, he already has his webbing device on his arms here, but he actually had something else that Tony actually made up for him, which was, I thought it was kind of cool, but at the same time it was like, But the whole thing is that he's looking up and he's actually, something flashes up and it's a little hologram. So he looks up and the camera looks up and it's actually a symbol of Spider-Man, and it's going, like, it's rotating very slowly. But to me, the reason why I liked it, but then it's like just kind of gave me a whole Batman feel to it too. I get it. People, even in the movies or in the comics, will rip each other off. So thank you guys so much. This is the spoiler Captain America Civil War review. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, stay awesome.